The Atlantic hurricane season lasts through November, and forecasters expect a slightly above average season with 14 named storms. 7 of those are expected to become hurricanes, and 3 are expected to be major hurricanes. How you can prepare for this hurricane season is coming up on Polk Place. Welcome to Polk Place. I'm your host, Brian Lacey, and joining me in studio, guy comes around about once a year because usually the rest of the time he's busy, buried in things deeply. Scott Schaubloom, he's the director for the Florida Department of Health and Polk County Communications. Did I get that right?
That's right.
Oh, wow. No paper. Look at.
Well,
I think we have a history.
we do, Brian. We do. I've tried to ban you from several shelters, thinking you were doing taping, and but you know, anytime you show up, we're glad to see you.
Well, hurricane season is upon us. Going to run through November. Last year we had one hit us major late in the season. And right about now is the time of the season that we really need to start preparing. And Florida Department of Health, Polk County is strong advocates of supporting the residents of Polk County. What do you suggest that they start really?
Well, Brian, I know none of us really want to think about it. It is early in the season, and many of us are still trying to recover from the effects of Hurricane Irma. But the earlier we begin to prepare, the better off we'll all be in terms of our ability to respond. And so one of the things that the Florida Department of Health is trying to encourage residents to do is take the time now, before the weather really does turn bad, to put your plan in place and begin to build your kits.
And the building of the kits, to make it easier, a lot of people, you know, just before it hits, you know, they run out and grab everything that they can, and sometimes the shelves are empty. Talk a little bit about the importance of maybe picking up something here and there. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, we've all seen the footage of the supermarket shelves that are barren, and we want to avoid that. And so one of the things you can do is that on your regular weekly grocery trips now, go ahead and pick up a few things that you can set aside. Maybe it's an extra case of water or a few extra cans of non-perishable goods. Maybe you go ahead and request from the pharmacy an extra supply of medications. And these things you can store in containers that will preserve it in the event that severe weather hits.
Now, one of the things that the folks need to really decipher when they're making a decision whether the hurricane is coming at us or going to squirt us, is it shelter in place or use the facilities that the Polk County provides? Talk a little bit about the difference between.
This is always a tricky call, and so we use the term in emergency planning called gray skies or blue skies. You know, blue skies are times like now where there's not a forecasted event on the horizon. Gray skies is when the weather is starting to turn bad and maybe there's a warning or a watch that's been in place. And so in these blue sky times, it's important to go ahead and make a plan now, so that you know what your family is going to do in the event that the weather turns bad. And so in these blue sky times, what we want to encourage folks to do is to know, are you going to evacuate? If you are going to evacuate, where are you going to go? And so that when the warning or watch comes out from emergency management, so many of these decisions have already been made. And what we encourage folks to do is to really listen and take the advice of Polk County Emergency Management. We will be informing folks as quickly as we can, based on what the storm's path is going to do, what they should shelter in place if they are in an environment where staying put is safe, or whether or not they really should have to leave. For most folks, unless you have some special needs, our recommendation is to find a safe location. If it's your home, you're in a brick structure that can endure high winds. For most folks, it's staying right where you are. But if you do have some medical needs, it's something that maybe you want to look into getting yourself placed on that special needs shelter registry.
Talk a little bit about that. You work firsthand with our Polk County Emergency Management folks and our special needs shelters, and kind of give people the tour and the facilities and the things that are available for them in the event that they're special needs.
You saw it firsthand last year, Brian. During Hurricane Irma, we activated 3 special needs shelters, one of which was open for 10 days. And in emergency preparedness, we use the term that our shelters are lifeboats, not cruise ships. These are not places where it's an enjoyable experience to stay. Our goal is to create safe environments for residents who have special needs to be able to weather the storm until it's safe for them to go home. And so when we use that term special needs, what we're referring to is people who may be either oxygen dependent or electrically dependent, meaning they may have oxygen machines that require power, or they may have some other special needs. Maybe it's meds that have to be refrigerated. And so the county has established 3 locations throughout our area where folks who have these needs can go. But, and this is important, folks need to register in advance of the shelters. And so you can do that by going through the county's website and getting yourself placed on this list so that we can ensure we've got space available for you.
Last year's hurricane lasted a little bit longer than what folks really expected, and when it came time to move the folks out, there were struggles to get them back in. One thing that it takes is dedication of staff, whether it be Fuller Department of Health or Polk County employees or volunteers. Talk about the sacrifices that those individuals make in working these shelters. I mean, a lot of us have, you have family. We all have families, and our families are kind of at home to survive on their own, while the employees are making sure that the residents of the county are safe. Talk about that commitment and that dedication to the residents.
I'll tell you, I was maybe more impressed with the response from our health department staff and our county staff who work these shelters than anything else. You know, traditionally our fire rescue, our EMS, our police officers, they're used to being first responders. They're used to running towards danger. You know, if you're a county employee or a health department employee, that's not a traditional role that you and I are typically called to serve in, except in the event of the activation of some of these shelters. And in those situations, it really is folks like us who are called to duty. And that's a challenge and it's a struggle. You know, many of our staff had to leave situations where they had needs themselves at home, but they felt a high enough calling to serve the residents of Polk County that they showed up and they served in these environments. And I'll tell you, it was an encouragement to me to watch folks go above and beyond the call to serve folks who really didn't have anywhere else to go.
One thing that you mentioned, whether it's fire, EMS, law enforcement, there are a lot of partnerships that go on, and behind the scenes, whether it be at our special needs facilities or at our EOC, and between the county, the municipalities, and the nonprofits. You've seen that firsthand, and I think Paul Womble says it best when he says, you know, you get that view from 40,000 feet of everything that goes on. Talk about the partnerships that go on that keep this county safe.
You know, no response effort is perfect, but I have had the opportunity to witness what takes place in other counties, and I've got to brag on Polk County a little bit. We have an incredible rhythm and relationship of response that exists between both our government entities, our private sector, our nonprofit folks. When we activate our emergency response efforts and everyone converges at the Emergency Operations Center, it really is a sight to see. It becomes kind of a beehive of activity, and most folks, almost to an agency, are willing to check their ego at the door, to not worry so much about who gets credit, but really do come together in an effort to serve the residents of the county. And it's a pretty powerful thing to witness.
Yeah, it's very cool to see what goes on out there, and the amount of information that is just disseminated to the residents and visitors of the county. One of the things that I got to tell you that's a surprising story, we were without electricity 4 or 5 days, and my grandson was staying with us, and he just looks at me and he's like, "Chief, this is no fun." I'm like, "This is what happens, you know? No electronics, no phone, no nothing. It's sort of living in the, you know, in the moment, if you will."
It really is. And you bring up a good point. A lot of times when we make our emergency response plans, we're quick to think about the needs of what our adults are, but it's wise also when you're planning to take into consideration kids as well. As your grandson realized pretty quickly, it's a different world when there's no power. And so it's wise to take into account things that might make our kids or our young folks feel at comfort or at ease. So maybe that's a pillow, a special toy. Let's go ahead and put that in your planning kit as well, because they're going to be thrown off their schedule. You can pretty much count on that.
And another thing that unfortunately, when you were out and being sent out to cover the damage that's been done, the thing that absolutely blows me away is the hurricane plan that people in Polk County, of which I'm ashamed to say, made national news because somebody just left dogs out in a flooding area. Talk about the importance of preparing for animals too.
When you sign up on that special needs registry, one of the things that our staff tell you when you do is you have to make a plan for your pets. Because unless you're going to a pet-friendly shelter, animals generally aren't allowed to come with you. And in our special needs shelter, unless that animal is an approved service animal, they can't come. And so please include in that planning process whatever it's going to look like to take care of your pets, because you're right. We heard several stories of our first responders going out to clear a home or a neighborhood to make sure that it's safe for our folks to return. And in many cases, the animals were left to fend for themselves, and they deserve better than that.
Scott, I'm going to leave you with the last word today. Not even so much to inspire, but hopefully make sure that the folks at home, kind of take this seriously. We got lucky for a few years, and then we're not so lucky last year. Make sure the folks are ready for this hurricane season, if you would, please.
Brian, if there's one thing I can leave folks with, and if Irma doesn't do anything else, what I hope it reminds us of is the need to be prepared. I would encourage all of our residents in Polk County to make a plan now, and that plan should include putting together an emergency preparedness kit that will enable you to be self-sufficient for about 3 days. Our first responders are hardworking, they're dedicated, but the reality is the size of our county means that if we get hit with another Irma-like storm, it could be 3 days before anyone can get to you with extra food or water or supplies. So now's the time to prepare. Make sure that your kit includes enough food, enough water, extra medications, that you've made a plan for your pets, that you've included in your thought processes what you're going to do with your young ones if you have them, so that we're taking the steps now to ensure that all of our residents can be safe in the event that we have another hurricane.
Well, Scott, as usual, pleasure having you in, and any time that you want to talk, let me know, because I'm doing the interviews. Always a fun job.
Thanks, Brian. I enjoy it.
Summer months are upon us, and as the ocean waters heat up and the rains begin to come in, it's that time to prepare for hurricane season. As we reflect over the last year, many are reminded too well of the damage Hurricane Irma left in its path. Hurricane season is here, and it's time to begin thinking about how Florida residents can be prepared. The Atlantic hurricane season runs through the end of November, generally peaking anywhere mid-August to late October. Hurricane Irma is a striking reminder about the importance of hurricane preparedness and how making a plan early before a storm is coming can make a huge impact on a family. Now, if you need more information on hurricane preparedness, give the Florida Department of Health in Polk County a call at 863-519-7900 or look them up on the web at polk.floridahealth.gov.